Welcome to the Real Estate Entrepreneurs Podcast. Today, we have a private money lender, my friend Mike Seidl, all the way from Idaho. How have you been, Mike?
I've been very good, man. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited.
It's my pleasure, man, to have you here. We met. I was recollecting today when we met. It was actually about 3 or 4 years ago. You went to one of our events in Houston. Um,
Yeah.
you got a VIP ticket. I remember that, and then I was supposed to give you a refund on like a difference in price or something along those lines, but I didn't know who you were. So you were in the crowd, and then we had this go giver dinner that we did the night before, and you found out that we had donated like a lot of money to the waitresses, and you said, "Hey, Ricardo, just keep that difference for the donation." And I say, "Hey, man, I appreciate it." Which by the way, we broke that record on the last event in Houston, in a couple of months ago. So we were able to give the staff, it was $10,600 in tips. So
Wow.
yeah,
That's cool.
amazing, man. So
That's
um,
cool.
next one is in Tampa, Florida, in June 27th and the 28th. I don't know if you can make it to that. Um, but let's get into the private money lending game, Mike. How First of all, have you always done real estate? Can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure. I'll give you a 50,000-foot view and let you ask any questions you want to ask.
Absolutely.
Okay. So my first company was Medical Alert Systems. Push a button, get an ambulance. I was on the front end of that from 87 to 98. A public company came forward. They wanted to buy us. So my partner and I got an offer that we really couldn't refuse. It was silly. They had done a stock offering. They were out buying, so they were very aggressive. So we sold that to them. We had several thousand customers in 15 states when they bought. I took 5 years off, drove around the US for 16 months of those 5 years in a motorhome. So between the motorhome and the car, we did 56,000 miles.
So you
We
you retire early. You that like you because you were probably what in your 20s back then.
33 when it
33.
happened.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, well, I thought I was going to retire. Took 5 years off and was bored. I wasn't getting the mental stimulation. My brain was a little mushy and decided to start another business. So I started a construction company that focused on property damage. We did fire, water, vehicle impact, and we did between 250 and 300 house repairs a year. I sold that
Wow.
in 2017 and then started private lending some handshake loans with people I knew in the restoration industry in 2017. Was keeping some money out there, was considering flipping houses myself. Spoke with a guy who was on Wall Street. He managed about 1.9, no, 1.3, 1.4 billion in capital. And he came to a mastermind, explained how Wall Street really works and how retail investors like myself get hosed. So I listened to what he had to say, researched everything, told him he was full of it, and then found out that he was 100% accurate, everything that he was told us. So I sold millions of dollars in stock, started lending more, and then spoke with a guy who had $100 million of his own capital on the street. And he explained how private lending worked and how he had been doing it for a number of years. Sold more stock and went all in on private lending.
Wow, amazing. So now, before your first company,
Yep.
are you a college graduate, university? Where do you go?
I was a C student in high school. I
Okay.
went to a community college for 2 years and did well there, got accepted to NYU, and I studied economics at NYU. After my year at NYU, uh, my friend and I were socializing on July 1st of 1985. On July 3rd of 1985, we landed in London. I dropped out of school and we went backpacking in Europe.
Wow. So how was that first company? How did you start that first company? Like what? Like how did that come about?
Okay. So for the first company, I when I got back from Europe, I went to a facility, started working at a facility for sexual and physically abused kids. I became a residential counselor. I had a coworker there who was interested in starting a business. I was interested in starting a business, and he got a postcard in the mail for somebody selling what they said were franchises for medical alert systems. Come to find out, they were not franchises. They had issues with the Federal Trade Commission, but we liked the concept. We found somebody to make our equipment, and we found somebody to monitor it. So we just broke away from them and started and kept our own company going. But when we started, we had an answering machine in my mother's basement on her dryer. That was our first office. And that was it. We had no money. I had to move back home. I had a new car that I sold and drove around a 1975 Plymouth Valiant that had body rot, no floorboards. We had to put plywood on the floor. That was my floorboard. And that's
How
where we started from.
so? What do you think was the what made you successful on that first company? Was it the product? Was it sales? Was it the like the amount of clients you were able to acquire?
I think it was a combination of things. I think the biggest thing was I was 23, he was 20, and we were too dumb to know that we shouldn't be doing it and that we were going to fail. And we just didn't care what anybody had to say. I had a
Right.
brother-in-law because that was before phones, so cell phones. So we had pagers that we wore. You're old enough to remember those.
Yeah.
And one of mine went off one time during dinner, and my former brother-in-law laughed at me and called me Dr. Mike because here I am driving around in this 75 Plymouth Valiant. And we just kept going, 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 going. So I think the big thing is we were too dumb to know we shouldn't be doing it and we were going to fail. And we just kept going. I mean, I used to work, I'd get to the office because I'm an early riser, I don't sleep well. I'd get to the office at 5 in the morning and not leave till 9, 10 o'clock at night, 7 days
Wow.
a week. Well, you can do that at 23. I can't do that anymore.
No, not anymore. You need some
Nope,
rest or at least a distraction. Um,
absolutely.
so all right, and so it was a combination of multiple things, but you obviously had a good work ethic because if you get to the office at 5, you are determined to do some things, right? So there's no questions on the work ethic side, right? And you're getting things done.
Absolutely. Got a lot of stuff done. Because I don't come from money, what happened for me was I don't come from money. I grew up in a family with 6 kids. My dad left when I was 5. There were times I went to bed hungry. And when I went to NYU, I remember being on the elevator, and this was the first time I'd ever met anybody like this. And I heard some kids talking, and they had spent the summer in Europe. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, I'm no different than they are. And then I had a friend there who invited me over to her house for the weekend. And when I was there, the first night, the Friday night, I went in the backyard or in the back deck, and her dad was having a barbecue with a couple friends. And we started talking, and we had a good conversation. They gave me some grief. Well, when we left to go hang out with other friends our age, she asked if I knew who those guys were. And I said, I have no idea. They just seemed to be good guys. They were giving me grief about being an economics major. And we just had a good conversation. She said, well, the one of the guys, and she had described him, he is the president of ABC television. And the other guy is the executive vice president of Mobil Oil. And her dad was vice president of ABC in charge of entertainment. So these combination of things changed my mindset because I thought, wait a minute, these guys are no different than me.
Hmm.
They're just doing different things than me. So that mindset change and having grown up hungry just lit a fire underneath me and made me decide that no, I can do these things too. And it just kept me focused because I didn't want to be hungry anymore. I wanted what I wanted, and I wanted to be successful financially. So I focused on it and I worked for it.
Good deal, man. So you remind me of The Millionaire Next Door by Thomas Jane Stanley, right? I'm pretty sure you've probably read that book. Um,
That's fun. You should see my pickup truck.
exactly. So, because I
Yeah,
mean, I've been seeing you for a while now, Mike, right? And when I see you, I don't see as someone that's got tens of millions of dollars that are managing, right? Because let's face it, I mean, some of it is yours, but a lot of the other money is from other people. So But for someone to be trusted with that kind of money, you have to be a certain criteria. There was this one guy that I was asked one time if I would invest money with him, and my answer was no way. I would never put money on his deals. And they asked me, it's like, why? Those are smoking deals. Like they make a lot of money. I was like, yeah, but look, watch how he spends that money.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
and I'm like I'm very careful like how I invest my money. But when I
Yeah.
see people with certain spending habits, I'm like, I don't know, because I don't know if that's his money or if that's investors' money, right? And when I see you, I'm like, here's the millionaire next door. This is the guy that has a lot of money. You manage a lot of money, and we'll talk about that in a minute when it comes to private lending and all of that, which you have grown exponentially in the last few years. Um,
Yep.
but it's all about how you handle also wealth, right? You've exited two companies already, which I think you should be having a class on how to build and exit a company. And in the family mastermind, I'm pretty sure quite a few people will actually join that because you've been successful at that, right? How do you actually build a business that's sellable, right? Those are lessons that I would love to learn from you.
Yeah.
So before we get into the private money side, which is what you are doing today, what makes a business sellable, Mike, in your experience, right? And I know times are different today than maybe back then, but like, how do you ensure the business, what you've built in the last few years, you can go ahead and exit it and make a good multiple out of it?
I think there are a couple of things. Certainly, you've got to do the basic stuff of watching your reputation in the marketplace and provide a good service. It's got to be profitable. But I think what happens is most people start out as entrepreneurs and they do everything and they don't know how to give control to other people. So what one needs to do is there's a great book that I read years ago, The E Myth by Michael Gerber, and yeah, it's a
Amazing.
great book. And it teaches you how to you do the stuff in the beginning and then you keep stepping back and stepping back. And I think that's key because you have to have systems and processes in place. Otherwise, you have nothing to sell. So in each of my companies, I was very, very focused on systems and processes. For example, in each of my companies, and now in the private lending company, there are checklists for each job that needs to be done because you want to be able to systemize and automate everything and keep it so that you take as much of the human equation out of it as possible. For example, if you buy a McDonald's I'm sorry, if you buy a hamburger at McDonald's in Anchorage, Alaska, it tastes the exact same as a hamburger in Key West, Florida. And they have these little kids behind the counter that don't care about anything. What they did was they systemized it and took the thought process out as much as possible. Years ago, and I'm sure it's now mechanized now, it's been 25 years since I've been in a McDonald's, the ketchup and the mustard bottles, they would, when you squeezed it, it would put the exact amount out that was supposed to be on it. And it's been years. They used to have a dotted line on the wax paper that went around the hamburger, so the kid knew where to put the hamburger inside the wax paper. So for me, like in my lending business now, I have a 110-point checklist that we use on every loan that we do. So you've got to systemize, you have to automate, you want to take the thought process out as much as possible, or the decision-making process if you can, so that you are able to systemize things and you're selling a process that's repeatable. Additionally, I don't think you should be the face of your business, because if you are, once you leave, it's you. So, for example, in my second business, I hired a marketing rep. So when I sold, there were people knew I was the owner, but I was not the face of the company. I had a marketing rep, I had my project managers, etc., in my construction company. So I could step away and people didn't know I had really stepped away for a period of time. So having systems and processes that somebody can duplicate at other locations.
That's an amazing nugget you just talk, talked about, Mike, which is not being the face of the company, right? And I tell my people all the time, it's like, guys, do not make me the center of action. I really, number one, I don't want to be the center of action, for
Yep.
multiple reasons. Like, um, but and then they think it's like, but Ricardo, this is your business. I say, yes, I own it, but I don't necessarily need to be the face, because if I make it mine and I am the face of it, whoever buys this, they're gonna need me. And
Right.
I don't want them to need me. I want them to need you, the people that are actually here making things happen. So many of us make that mistake, even when you name your company. Like, some people put their names, their last names or their first names, and I was like, wow, that's a huge mistake, because they're making it so personal that it's very hard for people to attach to it if they're gonna buy it, right? So guys, you guys listening out there, if you're thinking that you need to be the center and the face and everything should revolve around you, Mike just gave us a great lesson that, no wonder why he was able to exit two different businesses, right? And now he's building this multi $1 million lending operation that we're getting ready to talk about. And you laugh, I know you laugh because I say multi-million dollars and you don't think it's that big, but think about it, for the average lender, private money lender, that only got maybe 100, 200, 300 grand. When you have a fund that has got more, they see, like, as now Mike being the bigger guy. And I get it, there are institutions out there, hard money lenders, that got hundreds of millions of dollars. But that's why you exist in the marketplace, is because now they have to run by a complete different set of rules than you do, um, as a private money lender, right? Because you bet on the jockey more than anything else. And of course, the property has to have, or the deal has to have enough meat on the bones for you to make an investment. But at the end of the day, you're investing in the person that's actually borrowing from you, because if they don't have a way to perform, then that's going to be a high risk. So
Absolutely.
the good, the bad, and the ugly of private money lending, Mike. Let's start with the good. What's so good about your line of work, like what you're doing today? Like, maybe like processes or time response to a loan request and things of that nature. What are the good things about what you do today?
Well, I think the good things is that I'm a true private money lender. So I'm using my capital and that of my investor community, as opposed to a hard money lender, which is using money from Wall Street and have to follow their guidelines and what their underwriting standards are. So when you speak with a hard money lender, most of them are white labeling for a very small amount of actually people or companies that have direct access to the Wall Street money. So for me, because I'm using, again, personal individual capital, myself and the community, the great thing about it is we can be flexible. If somebody makes sense, if the numbers make sense, and you talked about it, it's got to be a good operator first. I'm very focused on the jockey versus the horse. But if it's a good person, if they come forward with a good deal, we're not stuck in a buy box. Because we know we have a good operator, explain it to me. So when I first started out, I was simply doing single family homes, and that was it. I then started doing multifamily. I've done large multifamily where we give them lend them what's called rescue capital. They're in a tough situation, and they get some rescue money to get them over a situation, so a bridge. We've done small multifamily when it comes to purchase. We've done multifamily where somebody is raising capital and they have to backfill because they're not going to have everything by the time of closing. So we're able to give them some capital and then they raise it after the closing and then pay us back. And then we've got some people that in multifamily, and it's amazing how many facets there are, that are in multifamily and it's really too small to raise, but they don't have the capital. So they don't want to go and do a syndication. So we've had situations where we've lent 500,000. I think the largest we did was $2.4 million on a multifamily where they didn't want to go and raise the capital because when you do that, you have to, as you know, give up 70 to 80% of the equity. With our product, they're not giving up any of the equity. 18 to 24 months, they pay us back, and now they own 100% of the property when they refi out. So it's a good product for them. I've also done mobile homes. I've done land. I've actually had a couple of wholesalers who had some deals that were held off and they needed some capital, but they owned some property. So I was able to collateralize the property to give them operating capital. So we can be very flexible. And I really, really like that. I can bet on the individual, and if it's a good product, a good deal, I can lend on it as long as it's backed by real estate.
Absolutely.
So
That's
that's
that's the
good.
good thing, right? What would you
Yeah.
say? And I see a lot of good. You're doing a lot of things that I know a lot of private lenders are not doing. Like, like for instance, some private lenders, they just stick to one asset class, right? Like, I only do single family, or I only do multifamily, or I only do commercial for whatever reason. You're
Yep.
all over because you even mobile homes, which is um very different to do, right? Mobile homes depreciate. It's just, I guess, the land is where the money's at, right?
Exactly.
Now, what what is the what is the ugly about private money lending, in your opinion, Mike?
Um, the ugly is when somebody gets into a situation and it's somebody that you like and you have a good relationship with, but they're not taking care of business and you have to start pulling levers in order to get paid. So it could be a matter of, okay, now I'm going to charge you a late fee. And then the next one is, well, now we're talking about some default interest. And now we're going to increase the default interest. And now there's going to be a late charge. And but a late charge on the principal. So you got late charge on the payment that's due, and then you can charge late charge on the principal if it goes past the maturity date. So it's pulling the levers. I've got a situation I'm trying to work on now with somebody, and he's got two nice size loans. And he keeps coming up with different reasons as to why he can't pay them back. I give him solutions to help him through based on the assets that he has, and he doesn't do what I'm suggesting that he's got to do. And I'm pointing it out for him and I'm showing him. He had a piece of land that is worth $500,000, which he used as cross collateral. I said, well, that's great. Explain the land to me. Well, come to find out, the land is actually worth much more potentially
Wow.
because he has, and there's a multifamily property attached to it that is landlocked and they have to go across his property to get to it.
Wow.
And the multifamily property is worth 10, 20, $30 million. And he's not processing that, no, that land is worth a lot more because they need it. You need to come to some type of agreement with them, charge them a yearly fee or something like that. And then he has $500,000 in notes that he owns. Single family notes is in first position. They're all performing. Well, dude, you got to sell some of these notes to pay me back. You have to sell some of the properties. You have to do something. You can't just do nothing. And now he's just doing nothing. So he's had to get a letter from my attorney, and he keeps coming back to me. Well, I have to take care of my family. I get it. Sell something. You
Yeah.
got to do something. You can't just do nothing. So it's when somebody gets, they just vapor lock and they do nothing. He went off and here he is. His real estate business is having some challenges. His wholesaling business. And what did he do? He went out and developed an app for people. Why are you developing an app? That's not your primary source of business. What were you thinking? Go out and do real estate. That's your primary source.
Yeah, he's trying to
So,
pivot.
yeah. And that's the ugly of it is when they're not listening to what's being said and they're not seeing what's right in front of them. And it's going to potentially get very messy for him because we're cross collateralized with multiple properties.
Yeah, he loses it all. If
And he
if
has a
he
personal guarantee, So we're going to be paid. It's just how long is it going to take?
it might
And
take
then
a while. It might get nasty on his side. But he's got, like, I would have liquidated everything already, because
yeah,
if he's a this is how I see it. And by the way, Mike, I've been in situations like that. In 2017, arguably I was the biggest fix and flipper in the Houston area,
Wow.
and I was doing 47 rehabs at a time.
Oof.
I had a crew over 100 people, completely fully
Oh,
integrated. We had a marketing arm, we had a rehab arm, we had it all, right? And we were making good money. And a lot of these properties, if we didn't sell them, they were going to rent. So we were rehabbing them out. And at the time, it wasn't as easy as it is today to go get a DSCR loan. The
mhm.
only people that will do a DSCR back then was Corvest Financing, and they
Okay.
were not even known. Like to find them, I pulled some strings in order to find them. But anyhow, I was also in the middle of buying my business partners out from a bunch of rentals that we had together. And
Mhm.
Hurricane Harvey comes to town and disrupts the whole market, right? Because now you got 300,000 homes that are flooded.
Yep.
We have five rentals that flooded that didn't have flood insurance, but we have money and we have people. So we went and allocated the people from our rehabs to the rentals. We got them ready. We put about 200 grand because it was about 50,000 a pop to get them fixed up and get the tenants back in. And I thought, okay, maybe in 3 months we're gonna be able to get back to normal. And that was never the case because we lost all of our crews to FEMA. FEMA was paying $1,000 a day plus per diem.
Oof.
So here I am with 40 something projects in all stages. They all on private money. I had at the time probably it was about $15 million worth of private money. And I have money, man, but money runs out.
Yes.
That was 250K a month on interest only payments.
Oof.
Yeah. And my thing was
Brutal.
it was brutal, right? And my thing was I signed up for these loans, I'm gonna honor my commitments. Because I could
Yep.
the right thing would have been I didn't want to do this. Now that I look back, I was like, I should have done that day one. But now that I look back, I would have called every single lender and said, look, man, I got money. Don't worry about it. But I cannot make payments until I finish this property and get rid of it so I can finish the projects. And I think most of them would have been fine. Maybe one or two would have been like, no, you got to pay me, whatever. All right. So I went and started honoring my commitments and I started making all these payments and payments and payments. And guess what happened? Later on, I had no money. Yeah, I had paid interest, but now I was in a situation where they're coming to me and said, hey, man, what are you doing with these properties? So, well, I'm trying to finish them and get rid of them. But by the way, the ones I do finish, they're worth 20 to 30% less now. So I
Oof.
literally have no equity on these deals. And I still gotta owe you money on I still owe you money on these notes. Long story short, Mike, I was able to, I would say, satisfy 99% of those loans. There's always that 1% that you'll never make happy.
Right.
But my biggest lenders, they had $3 million each with me. There was like two or three
Mhm.
guys, and the other ones were hundreds and 200s. So I understand the situation these guys in. But I was like, hey, I'm gonna get rid of everything I gotta get rid of so I can clear my plate and literally start from zero. And I didn't file for bankruptcy. My attorney told me, actually, three different attorneys said, you just gotta go file for bankruptcy. I was like, no, man, I'm gonna tie up all these people's in different, in a whole mess. They'll never get their money back. That's not why I started this business. I don't want to do that. And luckily I didn't do it. So um if you're listening to this and you're working with Mike and you are in a bind right now, you got to start liquidating. That's what I did. I started liquidating. I became a motivated seller, sold everything I had. I didn't care if I made money or not, Mike, because I was just cleaning my plate, cleaning the plate. Of
Yep.
course, if I made 10 grand here and 20 there and 40 here, I will be able to throw more money to the fire and start finishing properties and hiring new people and all that. Um, but at the end of the day, I even sold my own house, which, by the way, your house is homestead. So I wasn't worried about anybody taking my house, but I said, I can't even afford this house right now. I'm just going to get rid of it, get rid of the payment, moving to a cheaper apartment. So at the end of the day, you got to do what you got to do to pull through. Now, are you still going to be best friends with him or him with you at the end of the after? Maybe not, but you know what? At least you can say, you know what, man, that poor guy, he went and did everything he could in order to stay alive, right? Because life happens. That's the reality, right?
Yeah. See, the thing for me is if he were doing what he should be doing, understand this has been going on for a year now. He's been giving me these different stories and he stopped paying interest 2 months ago. So if he had started selling properties a year ago, we'd be beyond this situation. And if he had sold his notes, we'd be beyond the situation and he could have sold them and made some money on them. Now he's got to do a fire sale because ultimately we're probably heading to foreclosure. And he'll be my first one. And I started private lending in 2017. And he just is not listening. If he had gone through and done some sales a year ago, we'd be fine. But he just, so that's the ugly is you get stuck in a situation, you're telling the person, you're giving them your opinion what they should do, and they don't necessarily have to follow my opinion, but they have to do something. And he's done nothing. He's just trying to rent the two properties out. They're commercial properties. Well, there's a problem with what you're doing on renting them. Sell them. And he had them listed by himself. He had them listed on Facebook Marketplace. What are you thinking? Get a broker in there. Sell these things. What are you doing? And he was they're leveraged less than what they're worth. One of them is worth $2 million, and he has a loan from me for 1.2. Sell the damn thing. And he had an appraiser come in. It just made, and I'm sorry, he's got a BPO. It makes absolutely no sense what he's doing. So that's the ugly, is when someone just is not making any sense with their behaviors and they're out writing an app instead of
Yeah,
decent cap.
instead of finding the thing about being a real estate investor, Mike, is that you can get rid of all your assets.
Quick.
There's more out there that you can go get.
Right.
So if you're thinking with a scarcity mindset of, oh my God, I don't want to let go of these 5 houses that I own, or the land, or the hotel, or the strip center, or whatever, because that's his problem. It's his scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
He's not thinking abundantly, saying, you know what? And that's how the universe will come and shake you up. For some reason, I went through what I went through. Okay.
Yeah.
And maybe for me it was more of a lessons learned, ego check. Who knows, man? Like, I don't know. I'm pretty sure I'm a different person today than I was back then. Um,
Sure.
because I learned and I got humbled a very hard way. But I was not afraid of getting rid of my properties. And hey, sometimes, we had to deed in lieu and foreclosure a few properties. But guess what? Every single one of those properties was finished. And the ones that were not and that had a deficiency, we gave money back. Hey, here's 20K left. There you go. You go fix it, man. I can't. I don't have. I got too many of them. If you help me fix this one, it's on you, right?
Sure.
Or give one back with a good one that's got equity. That's another
Yeah.
one. Because at the end of the day, these properties are like it's like dealing cards. Hey, I have this bad one here, and I know, Mike, that if I give you this bad one, man, I'm sticking it to you. But guess what? I got this one with equity. How about you take this one back, and I'll give you the one with the equity? Can we call it a day?
Sure. Right.
Sure.
You're actively trying to work it out. You're not sticking your head in the sand. You
Right?
got to get into it and you got to get it done. It's just, you're right. It's a scarcity mindset. It's just a house. It's just a commercial building. It was there before you bought it. It's going to be there after you sell it or get it foreclosed on. It doesn't matter. It's just a thing. You got to keep moving forward. And he's a pretty good size wholesaler. He owns like 40 properties.
Oh my
So
God, he's not doing
yeah,
it. 'Cause
that's
that's
what I'm saying. I want to bang my head again. I want to bang my head against my brick wall here. Like, what are you people
wow.
doing?
40 properties, and he's thinking that way. He must be in a very tough mental situation right now to be thinking that way. I remember I had this one guy that I had two loans with, and the first loan I was able to satisfy 100%, no problem. But the second one I was having challenges with, and I found a buyer that will buy, but he was buying at a discount, and I said, okay, how can I make up for some of the money that I have to give him back? And I looked at my wrist, and I had a Rolex watch on him on my wrist, and I said, "Oh, that's it, man. I just gotta go sell this watch. I sell this watch, I get 20K out of it, and at closing, I just go put those 20K on, and I'm out." I got rid of my watches. Like, hey, you know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta do what you gotta do if you're not buying like that, right?
And
And
he's a young kid. He's only mid 30s.
that's
He can
probably
be
why.
sold instantly.
Well, I was in the mid 30s when I went through all of that, right? I'm 47 now, and I must have been 36, 30. Yeah, this is 8 years ago now, 9 years ago.
Yeah.
And but guess what? I cleaned up my plate. I got a lot of scars, and I'm like, I had one of the lenders. He came back to me last year, and he's like, "Hey man, so when are you getting back on the game?" And I looked and I said, "Look, man, I'm tired. Like, if I do, I'll do one deal, or maybe I do bigger deals where I put all my efforts on that bigger deal. But
Yep.
honestly, what I was doing back then, I'm not gonna do ever again because that's just too much work. I don't have the energy for that anymore." He's like, "I'm just looking. I got 10 million, and I need to put it to work." He's like you. He has his own money, but he also lends from other people that he works with. And I was like, "Hey man, I'm like, I'll call you if I need you. I know you're gonna be there ready for me. Just keep in mind, I just don't have the drive right now to do what I used to do in the past because I found
Sure.
other ways to make money and to invest, right? So that's the ugly right now. Let's talk about a typical loan, Mike. What does a what's if I'm and I'm pretty sure you're a KPIs guy. You got your database in there. You know what the average loan size for you is. What does that look like within your book of business?
I would say the average loan size is about a buck 80. So 180,000.
180 grand. That's to purchase and rehab.
Purchase and rehab. What we do is we will lend 80% of purchase, 100% of repair. But if you have another property that has equity in it and we can cross collateralize so that you don't have to come to the table with 20% out of pocket, we will cross collateralize and we'll finance 100% of the
Okay.
purchase and repairs because we've got the collateral for the 20%. So we'll do that every day. And the cool thing about that is when you go to get your DSCR, you have used the equity in the other property that was handcuffed and you've put it to use. So when you go for the DSCR, you don't actually have to come to the table with money. And instead of getting a DSCR, you get a rate and term loan. So you're paying fewer points, lower interest, and so it's less expensive for you.
In
So
the
if you're
long
able to
run.
unlock the equity, it appears as though you've got 20% in the property, and you do, but it's not 20% that you've given to me, it's 20% from the other property. So you're putting your handcuffed money to use.
Is there a seasoning for that?
Um, I have never been at, no, it looks to, and I'm not saying there's anything fraudulent here.
Right.
The bank says, for example, you have to have $20,000 into the property. Well, you show them that you've got $20,000 into the property. So and I'm making these simple math up. We can only lend you 80,000, and you say, fantastic, no problem, because you used the 20% with us from the equity in the other property. So at closing, we get paid the 80,000. We're out, they're in. You never had to come with 20,000 to the table.
Understood. So what are the regular terms for one of your loans? Are you a 6 month, 12 month type of loan, or maybe 2 years? I don't know.
Yep, fair question. We are 9 months. And at the end of 9 months, if somebody needs an extension, we're going to look at it and see where you are in the process. If you're making interest payments and you're finished with the property, you're trying to sell it, but it's a slow market, we'll take a look at that. It's a case by case basis. So the loans are 9 months standard, and then we're 12%, 3 points, and then it's $14.95 for underwriting and doc prep, one fee, and that's it. Because I was in the construction industry, my second company, and we did all those jobs, I don't need an appraiser to go. I don't need, well, we don't need an appraiser because we do the underwriting, but I don't need an inspector to go and take a look at the property and tell me it needs a roof. Send me a photo. I know it needs a roof. I was a
Right.
contractor. I don't need somebody to tell me that. And
Right.
then they send us photos, and as long as they're detailed, we're fine. We can go with photos on everything. What we're doing now is we're having our borrower clients put an app on the phone so that it geotracks, and we know exactly where they're standing when they take the photo, because that's kind of the ugly in the industry. Whereas if you allow some people to take photos, they will take photos of a different property. So we're just starting to use this, roll it out, and they geotrack. We know exactly where they're standing. So 12 and 3, and that's it. And we'll give you up 3 draws. There's no charge for the first 3 draws.
Man, I tell you this, what you just talked about on the geo tracking, I have a friend. I'm not going to mention his name. You will probably meet him at some point because he's one of my clients and he comes to our events as well. But he got this contractor that got him for a lot of money because he was sending pictures on work that wasn't being done on a property that he had purchased at a distance. And he's like, right now, he's a motivated seller. He called me up, said, "Hey, man, can you?" And he's a wholesaler. He said, "Can you sell these things for me?" And I'm like, "Absolutely." So I got some properties right now that I haven't talked to him lately because I went on vacations, but I don't know if he got rid of them or not. But that's how he got taken care advantage of. Is a contractor stole. It was like a big 6 figure rehab money, and luckily he had bought these things so discounted that he can pretty much go refi them out and still do well.
Good.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure that that's a common thing now. Is like, how do we make sure these pictures are legit?
Yep. We're geo-tracking them, and we know they're standing in the house. I had somebody out of Atlanta try and pull that off. What they did was they told me that the property was done and they wanted me to release the rest of the funds. So I said, well, take some photos. Well, they took photos, and the photos were on the first floor. And I said, okay, but I'm looking at the pre-photos here, and there's a second floor that needs to be done. Let me see the second floor. So they hemmed and hawed, and then they showed me pictures from a second floor. And I looked at it and I said, this is not the same house. And well, what do you mean? It is. No, it's not. The square footage isn't the same. I'm looking at about where the windows are, and this is telling me it's not the same house. And if I look at the front of the house, there has to be some type of, I should be able to see the roof in there. There's got to be a peak. I've got to see something of what's going on. There's got to be a slope. And there wasn't. So I said, I want you to take your phone, stand in front of the house, walk in, and I want you to walk right up the stairs with your phone on. And when they did, he said, oh, I didn't, those photos, somebody else took those. I swore those were the correct ones. That's what they told me. It must have been one of my guys. And the upstairs hadn't been touched. So
What is
then
wrong? Why do they lie like that? Like, I'd rather
I,
tell you the truth. Hey, man, I don't know, Mike. Can you give me 5 grand? I'm out of money. I don't have money to finish the property because I went out over budget.
yep,
I'm not asking for the full draw, but just give me something so I can breathe on it, and maybe you will work with something like that. But
I got to
straight
tell you,
up lying makes no sense.
when I get on the phone with somebody and I ask them about their experience and their flips and what headaches have you run into, if they tell me that they make their ARV on every flip and that they've never had a problem, I'm done with the call. Because if you've been in the game long enough, you're going to have your teeth kicked in at some point. So I'm much more comfortable with somebody who's had their teeth kicked in and they tell me than somebody that tells me it's all rainbows and unicorns. Those people make me nervous. So I don't want to be around them. It's kind of like with a mastermind. I don't want somebody who's been around. I don't want the leader of my mastermind if they started after 2010, because it's all been rainbows and unicorns for everybody. I
Yeah,
want somebody that got their butt kicked in 2008, leader of my mastermind. That's who I want to listen to, somebody who came out the other side. I don't want to be there when they're coming out the other side. I want them to have practice. So just to go back to the lending, I want somebody that's had their butt kicked at some point. I want somebody that's got a story they can tell me that I can verify. I went bankrupt 20 years ago and this is what happened. And this is what I do to make sure it doesn't happen again. Those people I'll talk to every day of the week. So yeah, get on the phone with your lender, tell them what problems you're having, and just be straight up with them. Don't hide. It can be uncomfortable. It can be embarrassing, But I don't know of any lender, and I know multiple private lenders throughout the country, and I know some of the hard money guys too. Um, None of them would give somebody grief who got on the phone with them and had a conversation and wanted to work it through. Those people I want to work it through with every day of the week. But again, the people who are unicorns, unicorns and rainbows, don't talk to me. I'm not your guy.
Man, that's in Houston where I live. I'm actually in Venezuela right now, where my call center is, but I do reside in Houston. There is a private money club. Like these guys, they all meet together,
Yep.
and they share a lot of information, market wise, people wise, and all of that, right? And
Mhm.
it's funny because my name got brought up a few times, and this is like I found out about this like way after the whole fact, right? One guy comes to me and said, "Hey man, I know you're wholesaling, but when are you getting back into fix and flips?" And I looked at him and I said, "I really don't want to go do fix and flips right now, man. Like because wholesaling is so easy. You know, I just flip paper and I make money, and I don't have the risk of managing contractors."
Yep.
Um, well, the reason I ask you this is because I'm a private money lender and I am in such in so and so group, and I'm looking for a guy like you that could actually turn houses around. And I was like, "What group?" And so he started telling me, and then he says, "This guy is here." This, and I said, "Oh, I see. I know exactly who you're talking about." So word gets around even when you don't know about it, right? Whether it's good or bad, you know. You never know. You might be doing a deal in. You've been all over the country now, Mike, because you've been in Phoenix, you've been in Idaho. I see you in Florida lately a few times, and you got clients all over. But you're also setting up all these local networks, right? And you got connections with contractors, connections with title companies. You're sending loans out, and you're having to communicate with all these multiple people. The truth is always gonna come out. Period.
Always.
Always.
I. It's funny because it works both ways. If I have somebody come to me that wants to borrow money, and most of my borrowers come through referrals. And what I will do is, if it's somebody that I don't know, I will get on the phone with somebody in that market, or I'll get on the phone with someone who may know somebody in that market, and I'll ask, what is this person like? Are they good to deal with? And the people who I'm originally from the Northeast, so we're very direct, no BS. It just is what it is. So I'll get on the phone and I'll say, is this a good person? And this is somebody who's close to me. I'm calling. Is this a good person? If they say lend them money, they're great. I'm good. Now I'm looking at the project. I'm still going to do my background stuff,
Of
but that
course.
gets you way over the hump. And then if they say, nope, he's an ass, the conversation is over. I won't lend to you. I'm totally done. Now, this isn't just somebody that I've met at an event who's giving me this information. It's somebody that I've known for a while. I've got a guy in the Florida market who's very well connected. And I call him and he'll just tell me right away, or he'll say, let me make a phone call. And he'll get back to me and he'll say, yeah, you can lend to him or don't. I had somebody in Ohio who needed a $750,000 loan on a commercial property. He had run into a situation. So I called one guy who I happen to know in Ohio. We're friends. And I said, what do you think of so and so? He said, he is a great guy. You can lend him the money. He will do everything he can to pay you back. He is a great guy. So that made it much easier. So when it comes to the lending side, the borrower client side, we do that. Then when it comes to other private lenders, yeah, I know people throughout the country. I know somebody in Canada who has $125 million of private
Wow.
capital, no institutional money. I've got people in Washington State. I've got them all over the country. And what we'll do is, if there's a mastermind, we get together, we have a conversation. I may jump on a call, and we just talk. How are things going? Had any problems with anybody? And we'll exchange information on who was a bad borrower. And that information goes very fast.
Oh yeah,
And
it goes very fast.
yeah, I mean, it's not if I get on the phone with somebody and I've already gotten a heads up and somehow they get on my calendar and I start looking at it and say, wait a minute, I know this guy. I'll just say, I'm a little tight on capital right now. I can't help you out. And I just let it go. I'm not going to say somebody told me you hose them. I'm not getting into that
No,
conversation.
it's not worth getting into all of that, right? It's like,
No,
hey, man, I just rather my gut feeling tells me I can't do it right now, and that's the best thing I can do. Now, let's say I am one of those guys that I have a W-2 job. I'm happy with my job. I have a good size 401k or self-directed IRA or something along those lines, but I just don't know how to do it myself, Mike. Like, how can I work with you if I'm one of those people?
ah, well, it's a very simple thing. If you're an accredited investor, you go into our fund. If you are not an accredited investor, we can do a whole note placement for you. So, for those who don't know, a accredited investor is somebody who has a net worth of $1 million or more, not counting their primary residence, or they make $200,000 a year as an individual with a reasonable expectation that they will continue to make $200,000 a year or more, or $300,000 as a married couple. So accredited investors go in the fund. Non-accredited investors we can put into whole notes.
And what sort of returns do those guys see? Because you're doing all the work.
Yeah, they get between 7 and 10% depending on how much money they put in.
That's still pretty good.
It's twice what the bank is. And it's funny. I was on the phone with somebody who's a pretty bright guy, and he was telling me that his bank pays, let's just say for simple math, 3.5%. And I said, okay, well, we can pay you 7%. He said, well, it's only 3.5% more. No, that's 100% more. You just doubled your return. So you got to do the math. And then when somebody is going from 3% to 9%, which I've had people do, they're getting 200% more return on their money. And they just don't think about the math. They just say, well, it's 6% more. No, it's 200% more. So working with it, yeah. So they get between 7 and 10% depending on how much money they put with us. And the cool thing, I really like the 15th of the month because that's the day that we send out interest payments, and I do my little interest payment dance that
Oh
I can
yeah.
send all this money out to people and they didn't have to do anything. Oh
Do
yeah,
you
I
have,
stand there and I'll do this. I'll do interest payment day.
do you
And
have
they're
a
getting
TikTok
money
channel for that?
and they did nothing. I've got one guy who's got enough money with me. He and his wife make about $50,000 a month in
Wow.
interest, and they do nothing. The money just goes to them. They get their interest payments, and that's it. And they see their monthly statement. Then I have other people that get notified, but they leave it in so that it can compound. But they still get their statement, and we still let them know. They get their email and that it's coming. And I also have relationships with my investors, the same as I do with borrowers. I want relationships with my investors as well. So I'm going to Iceland in May with two investors. It's a married couple, and Lois and I are going with them in May. I've been on cruises with investors. I went whale shark diving with an investor because I'm a diver. And we're going. We couldn't. When we went to Belize, there were no. We went diving. We didn't see any. So now we're going to Roatan in December, and we're going to look for whale sharks again because I'm determined to swim with a 50 or 60-foot whale shark. That's on my
Wow,
bucket list.
that's amazing, man.
But,
Mike, how
but
can
yeah,
people get a hold of you? If I want a loan or if I want to give you money so we can work together, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
well, our website is reicapitalguys.com. They can email me at mike@reicapitalguys.com, and I'm happy to set up a Zoom, hop on a call, and see what I can do to help out.
Is it like this? Let me reicapitalguys.com. Look,
Sorry,
all
gotta do my
right,
glasses.
reicapitalguys.com.
You got it.
All right, guys, if you guys want a loan, private money handle, Mike can take care of you. If you got money that you're not taking advantage of, talk to him. It's better to give the money to a professional than to go venture on your own because you just don't know what you don't know when it comes to handling transactions, how to take over a property, how to cross collateralize properties with loans, and like it takes years for someone to know what Mike is doing now. He's invested a lot of time, money, and also deals learning from other lenders on how to do this correctly because I'm pretty sure you're part of a few masterminds where you talk about this, right, Mike?
Absolutely. And what we do also is, not a lot of people can do this, is when we are putting money out for people, it's not OPM, it's not other people's money. Our money is in there too. My partner and I have millions of dollars out on the street with our investors. So we have a vested interest in doing well, because we won't do well either if something happens to a property.
Yeah, everybody
So
loses. You either all make money or you all lose at the same time, right?
you got it. We're together. So yeah, there are rules out there. You just want to be careful.
Hey guys, REICapitalGuys.com. Thank you so much, Mike, for being here today, for giving us an hour of your time, brother. I appreciate you. This was an amazing podcast. Guys, attend Grove June 27th, 28th in Tampa, Florida. We're going to have 200 to 300 people in that room. You want to make sure you get you a ticket right now while they're discounted. Don't forget to hit share, like, and subscribe. And I'm looking forward to see you there. Thank you so much, Mike.
Anytime. See you later, man. Appreciate
All
it.
right, brother. Appreciate you.